The 10th year of Hijrah. Then Ibn Ishaq said, "And when God had granted his prophet, may God's peace and blessings be upon him, victory in Makkah, and he had returned from Tabuk, and the tribe of Thaqif had submitted to God, delegations from the Arabs came to him from every direction. For the Arabs had been waiting to see what would become of this clan of Quraysh and the affair of the Apostle of God. May God's peace and blessings be upon him, for Quraysh were the leaders of the people." He said, Utarid ibn Hajib arrived in a great delegation of the Banu Tamim, among whom were Al-Aqra ibn Habis and Al-Zibriqan ibn Badr, and with them was Uyayna ibn Hisn. When they entered the mosque, they called out to the Apostle of God, "May God's peace and blessings be upon him. From behind his private chambers, come out to us, O Muḥammad." Their shouting aggrieved the Apostle of God, "May God's peace and blessings be upon him," but he came out to them. They said, "O Muḥammad, we have come to vie with you in glory, so grant leave to our poet and our orator." He replied, "I have given leave to your orator, let him stand." So Utarid stood and proclaimed, "All praise is due to God, to whom belongs all grace and favour, and who is worthy of it. He who has made us kings and bestowed upon us immense wealth with which we perform acts of virtue. He has made us the most honoured of the people of the East, the most numerous in count, and the most ready in provision. Who among men is our equal? Are we not the leaders of men and the foremost in virtue? So let whoever would vie with us in glory enumerate what we have enumerated. And were we to wish it, we could speak at greater length, but we are too modest to be verbose. I say this so that you might bring forth a speech like ours, and a cause more noble than ours." Then he sat down. The Apostle of God, may God's peace and blessings be upon him, said to Thabit ibn Qais ibn al-Shammas al-Khazraji, "Arise and answer him." So he stood and proclaimed, "All praise is due to God, whose creation are the heavens and the earth. He decreed his command within them, and his throne encompasses his knowledge, and nothing has ever been except by his grace. Then it was from his grace that he made us kings, and chose from the best of his creation an apostle, the most noble in lineage, the most truthful in speech, and the most excellent in standing. He sent down upon him his book, and entrusted him with his creation, and he became God's chosen one from all the worlds. Then he called humanity to faith, and the first to believe in him were the emigrants from his own people and his kinsmen, the most noble of people in standing, the most beautiful of people in countenance, and the best of all the worlds in deeds. Then the first of creation to answer when the Apostle of God, may God's peace and blessings be upon him, called us were we. And so we are the Ansar, the helpers of God and the ministers of his Apostle. We fight the people until they believe in God and his Apostle. Whoever believes, his wealth and his blood are protected, and whoever disbelieves, we shall strive against him in the way of God forever, and his being slain shall be a light matter for us. I say this, and I seek God's forgiveness for the believing men and women, and peace be upon you." Then Al-Zibriqan ibn Badr stood and recited, "We are the noble, no tribe can equal us. Among us are kings, and in our midst are the temples raised. How many a tribe have we utterly subdued, at the time of plunder when glorious honour is pursued. And in times of drought we are the ones who feed, with roasted meat when not a sprout of green is seen. You see how the nobles of the people come to us, from every land flocking, and we then show them our grace," in a few verses. The Prophet, may God's peace and blessings be upon him, said, "Arise, O Hassan, and answer him." So Hassan said, "Verily, the chieftains of fear and their brethren have made clear a path for all people to follow. With it is pleased everyone whose inmost self is filled with the consciousness of God, and who every good does so. A people who, when they wage war, bring harm to their foe, or if they seek to benefit their allies, they bring them gain. This is a nature ingrained in them, not newly found. For know that the worst of all characters are innovations vain. In a few verses. Al-Aqra ibn Habis said, "By my father this man is surely favoured. His orator is more eloquent than our orator, and his poet is more gifted than our poet." He said, when the people had finished, they submitted to God. And the Prophet, may God's peace and blessings be upon him, bestowed upon them generous gifts. It was concerning them that the verse was revealed. Verily, those who call out to you from behind the private chambers, most of them do not use their reason. 49:4. Suleiman ibn Harb said, Aḥmad ibn Zayd related to us from Muḥammad ibn al-Zubayr al-Hanzali, who said, Al-Zibrikan ibn Badr, Qays ibn Asim, and Amr ibn al-Ahtam came to the Prophet, may God's peace and blessings be upon him. He said to Amr ibn al-Ahtam, tell me about this Zibrikan, as for this other one. And I believe, he said, he already knew Qays. I will not ask you about him. He said, he is obeyed among his kin, of formidable presence, and a staunch defender of what is his. Al-Zibrikan then said, he has said what he has said, but he knows that I am better than what he has said. Amr then said, as I know you, you are of meagre chivalry, of narrow disposition, of foolish father, and of ignoble maternal uncle. Then he said, O Apostle of God, I have spoken the truth in both cases. He pleased me, so I spoke of the best I know of him, and he angered me, so I spoke of the worst that is in him. The Apostle of God, may God's peace and blessings be upon him, then said, verily, in eloquence there is a kind of magic. A similar account was narrated by Ali ibn Harb al-Tai, from Abu Sa'd al-Haytham ibn Mahfuz, from Abu al-Muqawwim al-Ansari Yahya ibn Yazid, from al-Hakam ibn Utaybah, from Miqsam, from Ibn Abbas, as a connected narration. Muslim ibn Ibrahim said, Al-Aswad ibn Shayban related to us, saying, Abu Bakr ibn Thumama ibn al-Numan al-Rasibi related to us from Yazid ibn Abdullah ibn al-Shikhir, who said, my father came as part of the delegation of Banu Amir to the Prophet, may God's peace and blessings be upon him, and said, you are our master and the one with bounty over us. The Prophet said, gently, gently, speak your words as you would, and do not let Satan embolden you. The master is God, the master is God. Al-Zubayr ibn Bakar said, Fatima bint Abdul Aziz ibn Mu'amala related to me from her father, from her grandfather Mu'amala ibn Jamil, who said, Amir ibn al-Tufail came to the Apostle of God, may God's peace and blessings be upon him, who said, O Amir, submit to God. He replied, I will submit on the condition that the people of the desert are mine, and the people of the towns are yours. The Prophet said, O Amir, submit to God. He repeated his condition. The Prophet said, no. So he turned away, saying, O Muḥammad, I shall surely fill it against you with sleek horses and beardless youths, and I shall tie a horse to every palm tree. The Prophet, may God's peace and blessings be upon him, said, O God, suffice me against Amir and guide his people. He departed, and when he was on the outskirts of Al-Madinah, he came across a woman of the Saluliya tribe. He dismounted from his horse and slept in her house. A gland swelled in his throat. He leapt upon his horse, took up his spear, and began to ride about, crying, a swelling like the swelling of a young camel, and a death in the house of a Saluliya woman. And he remained in that state until he fell down dead. Ibn Ishaq said, A delegation of the Banu Amir came to the Apostle of God. May God's peace and blessings be upon him, and among them were Amir ibn al-Tufail, Arbad ibn Qays, Khalid ibn Jafar, and Hayyan ibn Aslam. They were the chieftains and devils of their people. Amir, the enemy of God, came to the Apostle of God. May God's peace and blessings be upon him, intending to betray him. His people had said to him, "The people have submitted to God." But he said, "I have sworn an oath that I will not rest until the Arabs follow in my footsteps. And now I am to follow in the footsteps of this youth from Quraysh." Then he said to Arbad, "When we come to him, I shall distract his attention from you, and when I do so, you are to strike him with the sword." When they came before the Apostle of God, may God's peace and blessings be upon him, Amir said, "O Muhammad, speak with me in private." He replied, "No, by God, not until you believe in God alone." Amir said, "By God, I shall fill it against you with horses and men." As he turned away, the Prophet said, "O God, suffice me against Amir." He then asked Arbad, "Where is that which I commanded you to do?" He replied, "May you have no father. By God, every time I resolved to do what you commanded, you came between me and him. Was I to strike you with the sword?" And on the road, God sent down upon Amir the plague in his neck, and God caused him to die in the house of a woman from Salul. As for the other, God sent upon him and his camel a thunderbolt, which consumed them both. Hammam said, from Ishaq ibn Abdullah ibn Abi Talha, that Anas related to me, saying, "The chief of the polytheists was Amir ibn al-Tufail. He came to the Apostle of God, may God's peace and blessings be upon him, and said, I offer you 3 choices. The people of the plains shall be yours, and the people of the highlands shall be mine. Or I shall be your successor after you, or I shall invade you with the Ghatafan, with 1,000 bay horses and 1,000 sorrel mares." He said, he was then struck by the plague in the house of a woman. He said, "A swelling like the swelling of a young camel in the house of a woman from the tribe of so-and-so. Bring me my horse." He mounted it and died upon its back. Al-Bukhari narrated this. The emissary of Banu Sa'd ibn Ishaq said, from Muḥammad ibn al-Walid, from Qurayb, from Ibn Abbas, the Banu Sa'd ibn Bakr sent Dimam ibn Thalaba as their emissary to the Apostle of God. May God's peace and blessings be upon him. He was a sturdy man with long hair and 2 braids. He came and stood before them and asked, "Which of you is the son of Abd al-Muttalib?" The Prophet said, "I am." He asked, "Are you Muhammad?" He said, "Yes." He said, "I am going to question you, and be stern in my questioning, so do not hold it against me in your heart. I adjure you by God, your God, and the God of those before you, and the God of those who are to come after you. Has God commanded you to command us that we worship him alone and associate nothing with him, and that we cast off these idols?" He replied, "O God, yes." He said, "Then I adjure you by God, your God, and the God of those before you, and the God of those who are to come after you, has God commanded you that we perform these 5 prayers?" He replied, "Yes." Then he began to mention the obligations of Islam, adjuring him at each obligation. Then he said, "Then I bear witness that there is no God but God, and that Muhammad is the Apostle of God. I shall fulfill these obligations and avoid what you have forbidden me, and I shall neither add nor subtract." Then he turned and went back to his camel. The Apostle of God, may God's peace and blessings be upon him, said, "If the man with the 2 braids has spoken truly, he will enter paradise." He returned to his people, and they gathered around him. The first thing he said was, "Woe to Al-Lat and Al-Uzza." They said, "Hush, O Dimam, fear leprosy, fear madness." He said, "Woe to you! By God, they can neither harm nor benefit. Verily, God has sent an apostle and revealed to him a book with which he has rescued you from the state you were in. And I bear witness that there is no God but God, and that Muhammad is his servant and his apostle. I have come to you from him with what he has commanded you and what he has forbidden you." He said, "By God, by the evening of that day, there was not a single man or woman in his camp who had not become a Muslim." He said, "Ibn Abbas used to say, 'We have never heard of an emissary of a people who was more excellent than Dimam.'" Ishaq ibn Abi Israel al-Marwazi said, "Hamza ibn al-Harith ibn Umair related to me, saying, 'My father related to us from Ubayd Allah ibn Umar, from Sa'id, from Abu Huraira, who said, a man from the people of the desert came to the Prophet, may God's peace and blessings be upon him, and said, I adjure you by the Lord of those before you and the Lord of those after you, did God send you?' And he mentioned the narration in which he said, 'For I have believed and affirmed, and I am Dimam ibn Thalaba.' When he had turned away, the apostle of God, may God's peace and blessings be upon him, said, 'The man has gained true understanding.' He said, 'Umar used to say, I have never seen anyone who questioned more beautifully or more concisely than Dimam ibn Thalaba.' Al-Harith ibn Umair is a weak narrator. The story of Dimam is in the two Sahihs from the narration of Anas. Ibn Ishaq said, Al-Jarud ibn Amr, a brother of the Banu Abd al-Qais, came to the Apostle of God, may God's peace and blessings be upon him. Abd al-Malik ibn Hisham said he was a Christian. The Apostle of God, may God's peace and blessings be upon him, called him to the path of submission. He asked, O Muḥammad, will you guarantee my religion for me? He replied, Yes, for God has guided you to that which is better than it. He said, so he and his companions submitted to God. Ibn Ishaq said, a delegation of the Banu Hanifa came to the Apostle of God, may God's peace and blessings be upon him, and among them was Musaylima ibn Habib, the liar. They were lodged in the house of the daughter of Al-Harith al-Ansariya. One of our scholars related to me that the Banu Hanifa brought him to the Apostle of God, may God's peace and blessings be upon him, concealing him with garments. The Apostle of God, may God's peace and blessings be upon him, was sitting with his companions, holding a palm stalk with some fronds at its end. When he spoke to the Prophet, may God's peace and blessings be upon him, and made his request, he said, if you were to ask me for even this palm stalk, I would not give it to you. Ibn Ishaq said, a sheikh from the people of Al-Yamama related to me that his story was different. He claimed that the delegation of Banu Hanifa came to the Apostle of God, may God's peace and blessings be upon him, and left Musaylima behind with their belongings. When they submitted to God, they mentioned his station to him. The Apostle of God, may God's peace and blessings be upon him, ordered for him the same that he had ordered for them, and said, as for him, his station is not the worst among you, meaning for his guarding of his companion's property. They then departed and brought him what he had been given. When they arrived in Al-Yamama, the enemy of God apostatized and claimed prophethood, saying, I have been made a partner in the affair with Muhammad. Did he not say to you, when you mentioned me to him, as for him, his station is not the worst among you? And that could only be because he knew that I had been made a partner with him. Then he began to compose rhyming prose, saying to them, in imitation of the Qur'an, God has surely bestowed grace upon the pregnant woman, bringing forth from her a soul that strives from between the membrane and the entrails. and he absolved them of the prayer and permitted them fornication and wine. Yet, despite this, he would bear witness that the Apostle of God, may God's peace and blessings be upon him, was a prophet. And the Banu Hanifa unanimously followed him in this. Shuaib ibn Abi Hamza said, from Abdullah ibn Abd al-Rahman ibn Abi Hussein, who said, Nafi ibn Jubair related to us from Ibn Abbas, who said, Musaylimah the Liar came to Al-Madinah during the time of the Apostle of God, may God's peace and blessings be upon him, and he began to say, if Muhammad makes me his successor, I will follow him. He had come with a large number of his people. The Prophet, may God's peace and blessings be upon him, approached, and with him was Thabit ibn Qais ibn Shammas. In the Prophet's hand was a piece of palm stalk. He stood before Musaylimah and his companions and said, if you were to ask me for this piece of stalk, I would not give it to you. You shall never transgress the command of God concerning you, and if you turn away, God will surely destroy you. And I see in you the one whom I was shown in my vision. And this is Thabit ibn Qais, who will answer you on my behalf. Then he departed. Ibn Abbas said, I asked about the saying of the Prophet, may God's peace and blessings be upon him. You are the one whom I was shown in my vision. Abu Huraira informed me that the Prophet, may God's peace and blessings be upon him, said, while I was sleeping, I saw in my hands 2 bracelets of gold. Their matter troubled me greatly. Then it was revealed to me in the dream, blow upon them. So I blew upon them, and they flew away. I interpreted them as 2 liars who would emerge after me. He said, so one of them was Al-Ansi, the man of Sana, and the other was Musaylimah, the man of Al-Yamama. Both Al-Bukhari and Muslim narrated this. Mama said from Hammam, from Abu Huraira, that the Apostle of God, may God's peace and blessings be upon him, said, while I was sleeping, I was brought the treasures of the earth, and 2 bracelets of gold were placed in my hands. They felt heavy upon me and troubled me. Then it was revealed to me to blow upon them, so I blew upon them, and they vanished. I interpreted them as the 2 liars between whom I stand, the man of Sana and the man of Al-Yamama. This is agreed upon. Al-Bukhari said, Al-Salt ibn Muḥammad related to us, saying, Mahdi ibn Maymun related to us, saying, I heard Abu Raja, that is, Al-Utaridi, saying, when the Prophet, may God's peace and blessings be upon him, was sent, and we heard of him, we joined Musaylimah the liar, we joined the fire. In the time of ignorance, we used to worship a stone. If we could not find a stone, we would gather a handful of earth, then milk upon it, and then circumambulate it. Ismail ibn Abi Khalid said, from Qais ibn Abi Hazim, who said, a man came to Ibn Masud and said, I passed by one of the mosques of the Banu Hanifa, and they were reciting a recitation that God did not reveal. By the grinding millers, grinding, and the kneading kneaders, kneading, and the baking bakers, baking, and the crumbling crumblers, crumbling, and the morsel takers, taking. So Abdullah sent for them, and they were brought, 70 men in all, their leader being Abdullah ibn al-Nawwaha. He said, Abdullah ordered him to be executed. Then he said, we could not secure Satan from these men, but we shall send them to Al-Sham. Perhaps God will suffice us against them. Al-Masudi said, from Asim, from Abu Wail, from Abdullah, who said, Ibn al-Nawwaha and Ibn Uthal came as 2 messengers from Musaylimah to the Apostle of God, may God's peace and blessings be upon him. The Prophet, may God's peace and blessings be upon him, said to them, do you bear witness that I am the Apostle of God? They replied, we bear witness that Musaylimah is the Apostle of God. He said, I believe in God and his apostles. Were I one to slay a messenger, I would have slain you both. Abdullah said, "And so the precedent was set that messengers are not to be slain." Abdullah said, "As for Ibn Uthal, God has sufficed us against him. As for Ibn al-Nawwaha, he never left my thoughts until God gave me power over him." This was narrated by Abu Dawud al-Tayalisi in his Musnad from al-Masudi, and it has a supporting narration. Yunus said, from Ibn Ishaq, Sa'd ibn Tariq related to me from Salama ibn Nuaym ibn Masud, from his father, that the Prophet, may God's peace and blessings be upon him, heard when the two messengers of Musaylimah the liar came to him with his letter, him saying to them, "And do you say the same as he says?" They replied, "Yes." He said, "By God, were it not that messengers are not to be slain, I would have struck off your heads." Ibn Ishaq said, Musaylimah had written to the Apostle of God, "May God's peace and blessings be upon him," at the end of the 10th year. From Musaylimah, the Apostle of God, to Muḥammad, the Apostle of God, peace be upon you. To proceed. I have been made a partner in this affair with you. To us belongs half the land, but Quraysh are a people who transgress. So he wrote back to him, from Muḥammad, the Apostle of God, to Musaylimah the liar, peace be upon him who follows the guidance. To proceed. Verily, the earth belongs to God. He gives it as an inheritance to whom he wills of his servants, and the final outcome is for the God-conscious. Then the delegation of Ta'i came to the Apostle of God, may God's peace and blessings be upon him, and with them was Zayd al-Khail, their chief. They submitted to God, and the Apostle of God, may God's peace and blessings be upon him, named him Zayd al-Khair, Zayd the Good. He granted him the land of Fade and other lands, and he set out to return to his people. The Apostle of God, may God's peace and blessings be upon him, said, if Zayd survives the fever of Al-Madinah. For it is said that the Apostle of God, may God's peace and blessings be upon him, had given it a name other than fever, but we have not confirmed it. When he reached a water source in the land of Najd called Qarda, the fever struck him, and he died there. It is said that his wife took the letters he had with him and burned them. Shubah said, Samak ibn Harb related to us, saying, I heard Abad ibn Hubaysh narrating from Adi ibn Hatim, who said, the horsemen of the Apostle of God, may God's peace and blessings be upon him, came while I was at Akrab, and they took my paternal aunt and some other people captive. When they were brought to the Apostle of God, she said, O Apostle of God, the provider is absent, the offspring is cut off, and I am an old woman. Be gracious to me, may God be gracious to you. He asked, Who is your provider? She replied, Adi ibn Hatim. He said, The one who fled from God and his apostle? She said, Then be gracious to me. A man beside him, whom you would take to be Ali, said, Ask him for a riding animal. So he ordered one for her. He said, She came to me and said, You have performed an act that your father would not have done. Go to him, whether in eagerness or in awe, for so-and-so came to him and received from him, and so came to him and received from him. Adi said, So I came to him, and with him were a woman and 2 small children. He mentioned their closeness to the Prophet, may God's peace and blessings be upon him. He said, I knew then that this was not the kingdom of Kisra or Qaisar, and I submitted to God. I saw his face beam with joy, and he said, Verily, those who have earned God's wrath are the Jews, and those who are astray are the Christians. And he mentioned the rest of the narration. Hamad ibn Zayd said, from Ayub, from Muḥammad, who said, Abu Ubaidah ibn Hudhayfa said, a man said, I used to ask about the narration of Adi while he was right beside me, and I would not ask him. So I went to him, and he said, God sent Muhammad, may God's peace and blessings be upon him, and I detested him more than I had ever detested anything. So I went forth to the farthest land of the Arabs, near the domain of the Romans. Then I came to detest my place, and I said to myself, what if I were to go to him and hear from him? So I came to Al-Madinah, and the people stared at me, saying, Adi ibn Hatim has come. Adi ibn Hatim has come. He said, O Adi ibn Hatim, submit and you shall be safe. I said, I am of a certain religion. He said, I know your religion better than you do. Are you not a Rakusi? I said, yes. He said, do you not lead your people? I said, yes. He said, do you not take the murba, a quarter of the spoils? I said, yes. He said, but that is not lawful in your religion. He said, I felt a sense of humiliation at that. Then he said, perhaps what prevents you from submitting is that you see the poverty among us, and you see the people united against us as one. Have you seen Al-Hira? I said, I have not seen it, but I know its location. He said, verily, the woman in her litter will travel from Al-Hira until she circumambulates the house without needing any guard, and the treasures of Kisra ibn Hurmuz will surely be opened for us. I said, the treasures of Kisra ibn Hurmuz? He said, yes, and wealth will overflow until a man will be concerned about who will accept his charity from him. He said, and I have indeed seen the woman in her litter travelling from Al-Hira without any guard, and I was among the first horsemen to raid Al-Madain. And by God, the third will surely come to pass, for it is a saying of the Apostle of God, may God's peace and blessings be upon him. A similar narration was related by Hisham ibn Hassan, from Muḥammad ibn Sirin, from Abu Ubaidah. Ibn Ishaq said, Farwa ibn Musayk al-Muradi came to the Apostle of God, may God's peace and blessings be upon him, having broken away from the kings of Kinda. The Prophet, may God's peace and blessings be upon him, appointed him over Murad, Zubayd, and all of Madhij. He sent with him Khalid ibn Sa'id ibn Alas to collect the charity, and he remained with him until the Apostle of God, may God's peace and blessings be upon him, passed away. He said, the delegation of Kinda, 80 riders, came to the Apostle of God, may God's peace and blessings be upon him, among them Al-Ashath ibn Qays. When they entered upon the Apostle of God, may God's peace and blessings be upon him, he asked, have you not submitted to God? They replied, yes. He said, then what is this silk around your necks? He said, they tore it off and cast it away. He said, Surad ibn Abdullah al-Azdi came to the Apostle of God, may God's peace and blessings be upon him, in a delegation from the Azd, and he submitted. The Prophet appointed him over those of his people who had submitted, to wage jihad against those who were near them. The submission of the kings of Yemen. He said, a letter from the kings of Himyar reached the Apostle of God, may God's peace and blessings be upon him, upon his return from Tabuk, and their messenger came to him with news of their submission. Al-Harith ibn Abd Kulal, Nuaym ibn Abd Kulal, An-Nu'man, the Kil of Dhu Ruwayn, Ma'fir and Hamdan. And Dhu Yazan, Malik ibn Murrah al-Ruhawi, sent word of their submission. The Prophet, may God's peace and blessings be upon him, wrote them a letter in which he mentioned the obligation of charity. He also sent to them Mu'ad ibn Jabal with a group, saying to them, I have sent to you from among the righteous of my family, the foremost in their religion and their knowledge. I command you to treat them well, and peace be upon you, and the mercy and blessings of God. Ibrahim ibn Yusuf ibn Abi Ishaq al-Sabi'i said, from his father, from his grandfather, from Al-Bara, that the Prophet, may God's peace and blessings be upon him, sent Khalid ibn al-Walid to the people of Yemen, calling them to Islam. Al-Bara said, I was among those who went out with Khalid, and we stayed for 6 months calling them to Islam, but they did not respond. Then the Prophet, may God's peace and blessings be upon him, sent Ali, may God be pleased with him, and commanded him to send Khalid back, except for any man who had set out with Khalid and wished to remain with Ali, he could do so. I was among those who remained with Ali. When we drew near the people, they came out to us. Ali led us in prayer, then arranged us in a single line. He then stepped forward and read to them the letter of the Apostle of God, may God's peace and blessings be upon him. And the entire tribe of Hamdan submitted to God. Ali wrote to the Apostle of God, may God's peace and blessings be upon him, informing him of their submission. When he read the letter, he fell into prostration, then raised his head and said, peace be upon Hamdan, peace be upon Hamdan. This is an authentic narration, a part of which al-Bukhari narrated with this chain. Al-Amash said, from Amr ibn Murrah, from Abu al-Bakhtari, from Ali. The Prophet, may God's peace and blessings be upon him, sent me to Yemen. I said, O Apostle of God, you send me a young man to judge between them, and I have no knowledge of judging. He struck my chest with his hand and said, O God, guide his heart and make his tongue firm. After that, I never doubted in a judgment between two people. Ibn Majah narrated this. Muḥammad ibn Ali and Atta said, from Jabir, that Ali came from Yemen to the Apostle of God, may God's peace and blessings be upon him, during the farewell pilgrimage. This is agreed upon from the narration of Atta. Shuba and others said, from Sa'id ibn Abi Burda, from his father, from Abu Musa, that the Apostle of God, may God's peace and blessings be upon him, sent him and Mu'adh ibn Jabal to Yemen, and said, make things easy, and do not make them difficult. Give good tidings, and do not drive people away, and work together in harmony. This is agreed upon, and it is narrated through other chains in a longer form. And in the Sahih of Al-Bukhari, from the narration of Tariq ibn Shihab, from Abu Musa, who said, the Apostle of God, may God's peace and blessings be upon him, sent me to the land of my people. He said, I came to him while he had made his camel kneel at Al-Abtar, and I greeted him. He asked, have you performed the pilgrimage, O Abdullah ibn Qays? I said, yes. He asked, what did you say? He said, I said, I am here, my intention for pilgrimage is as your intention. He asked, did you bring a sacrificial animal? I said, I did not bring a sacrificial animal. He said, then circumambulate the house and perform the say, and then release yourself from the state of ihram. So I did. And he mentioned the narration. As for Mu'adh, it is most likely that he did not return from Yemen until after the Apostle of God, may God's peace and blessings be upon him, had passed away. Ibn Ishaq said, Abdullah ibn Abi Bakr ibn Muḥammad ibn Amr ibn Hazm related to me from his father, who said, this is the letter of the Apostle of God. May God's peace and blessings be upon him, which we have, the one he wrote for Amr ibn Hazm, when he sent him to Yemen to teach its people jurisprudence, to instruct them in the Sunnah, and to collect their charities. He wrote for him a letter and a covenant, and commanded him in it, in the name of God, the most gracious, the most merciful. This is a writ from God and his apostle. O you who have believed, fulfill all obligations. A covenant from the Apostle of God, may God's peace and blessings be upon him, to Amr ibn Hazm when he sent him to Yemen. He commanded him to be conscious of God in all his affairs, for surely God is with those who are righteous and who are doers of good. And he commanded him to take what is right as he was commanded, to give the people good tidings of what is good, and to command them to it, to teach the people the Qur'an, and to give them understanding of it, and that no one should touch the Qur'an unless he is pure. He is to inform the people of what is due to them and what is due from them, to be gentle with them in matters of right, and to be firm with them in matters of injustice, for God has detested injustice and forbidden it, and he has said, "Behold, the curse of God is upon the wrongdoers." He is to give the people the glad tidings of paradise and the deeds that lead to it, and to warn them of the fire and the deeds that lead to it. He is to foster affection among the people until they gain understanding in the religion. He is to teach the people the rituals of the Hajj, its sunnahs and its obligations, and what God has commanded concerning it, and both the greater pilgrimage and the lesser pilgrimage, for the lesser pilgrimage is the Umrah. He is to forbid a man from praying in a single small garment, unless it is wide enough for him to cross its ends over his shoulders. He is to forbid a man from sitting with his knees drawn up in a single garment, exposing his private parts to the sky. And one should not tie up the hair of one's head if it grows long at the back of the neck. He is to forbid the people, if there is strife among them, from calling upon their tribes and clans. Let their call be to God alone, who has no partner. Whoever does not call upon God, the Almighty and Majestic, but calls upon clans and tribes, they are to be met with the sword until their call is to God alone, who has no partner. He is to command the people to perform ablution perfectly, their faces, their hands up to the elbows, and their feet up to the ankles, and to wipe their heads as God has commanded. And they are commanded to perform the prayer at its appointed time, and to complete the bowing and be humble, and to perform the morning prayer in the early darkness, and the noon prayer in the heat of the day when the sun has passed its zenith, the afternoon prayer while the sun is still visible on the land as it declines, the evening prayer when the night begins, not delaying it until the stars appear in the sky, and the night prayer at the beginning of the night. And he commanded him to hasten to the Friday prayer when the call is made, and to perform the ritual bath when going to it. And he commanded him to take from the spoils of war the fifth for God, the Almighty and Majestic, and what is prescribed for the believers in charity from their produce, from what is watered by rain and by natural springs, a tenth, and from what is watered by irrigation, half a tenth. Then he mentioned the zakat on camels and cattle in a summarized form. He said, "And upon every person who has reached puberty, male or female, free or enslaved, from among the Jews and the Christians, is one full dinar or its equivalent in garments. Whoever pays this shall have the protection of God and the protection of his apostle. And whoever withholds it is an enemy of God, his apostle, and the believers." Sulaiman ibn Dawood has narrated from Al-Zuhri, from Abu Bakr ibn Muḥammad ibn Amr ibn Hazm, from his father, from his grandfather, a narration similar to this as a connected report, with many additions regarding the zakat and omissions from what we have mentioned regarding the sunnahs. Abu al-Yaman said, "Safwan ibn Amr related to us from Rashid ibn Sa'd, from Asim ibn Humayd al-Sakuni, that when the Prophet, may God's peace and blessings be upon him, sent Mu'adh to Yemen, the Prophet, may God's peace and blessings be upon him, went out to bid him farewell. Mu'adh was riding, and the Apostle of God, may God's peace and blessings be upon him, was walking beside his mount. When he had finished, he said, 'O Mu'adh, it may be that you will not meet me after this year of mine, and perhaps you will only pass by this mosque of mine and my grave." Muad wept out of anguish at the parting from the apostle of God. May God's peace and blessings be upon him. The prophet said, "Do not weep, O Muad, for weeping is from Satan." Ibn Ishaq said, "Muḥammad ibn Ja'far ibn az-Zubair related to me, saying, when the delegation of Najran came to the apostle of God, may God's peace and blessings be upon him, they entered his mosque after the afternoon prayer, and when the time for their prayer came, they stood to pray in his mosque. The people wanted to stop them, but the prophet, may God's peace and blessings be upon him, said, 'Let them be.' So they faced the east and performed their prayer." Ibn Ishaq said, "Buraidah ibn Sufyan related to me from Ibn al-Baylamani, from Kurz ibn al-Qama, who said, the delegation of the Christians of Najran came to the apostle of God, may God's peace and blessings be upon him. 60 riders, among them 24 of their nobles. Among them were Al-Aqib, the leader of the people, and their man of counsel, whose opinion and command they all followed. His name was Abd al-Masih, and Al-Sayyid, their treasurer, and the master of their caravan and their assembly. His name was Al-Ayham, and Abu Haritha ibn al-Qama, one of the Banu Bakr ibn Wail, their bishop, their scholar, their imam, and the master of their religious school. Abu Haritha had attained high honour among them, and had studied their books until his knowledge of their religion was great. The Roman kings of the Christian faith had honoured him, funded him, and built churches for him. When they set out from Najran towards the apostle of God, may God's peace and blessings be upon him, Abu Haritha was seated on a mule of his, heading towards the apostle of God. May God's peace and blessings be upon him, and beside him was a brother of his, named Kurz ibn al-Qama, riding along with him. Suddenly Abu Haritha's mule stumbled, and Kurz said to him, "May the distant one stumble," meaning the apostle of God, may God's peace and blessings be upon him. Abu Haritha said to him, "Nay, it is you who has stumbled." He asked, "Why, O my brother?" He replied, "By God, he is indeed the prophet whom we have been awaiting." Kurz asked him, "Then what prevents you when you know this?" He replied, "What these people have done for us. They have honoured us and funded us, and they are resolved to do nothing but oppose him. If I were to act, they would strip us of all that you see." His brother, Kurz ibn al-Qama, harboured this in his heart until he submitted to God after that. Ibn Ishaq said, and Muḥammad ibn Abi Muḥammad, the freedman of Zayd ibn Thabit, related to me, saying, Sayyid ibn Jubayr or Ikrimah related to me from Ibn Abbas, who said, "The Christians of Najran and the Jewish scholars gathered with the apostle of God, may God's peace and blessings be upon him, and they disputed. The scholars said, Abraham was none other than a Jew, and the Christians said, he was none other than a Christian. So God revealed concerning them, O people of the book, why do you argue about Abraham when the Torah and the Gospel were not revealed until after him?" 365, and the verses that follow. Abu Rafi al-Qurazi said, "Do you want us, O Muhammad, to worship you as the Christians worship Jesus, son of Mary?" A man from Najran named Al-Rubaiz said, "Is that what you want, O Muhammad, and is that what you call us to?" The apostle of God, may God's peace and blessings be upon him, said, "God forbid that I should command the worship of anyone other than God." Then the verse was revealed, "It is not for a human being to whom God has given the book and wisdom, until his saying from among the witnesses." 379 to 81, and the verses that follow. Israel and others said, from Abu Ishaq, from Sila, from Ibn Masud and Shuba and Sufyan, narrated it from Abu Ishaq, saying Hudayfa instead of Ibn Masud, that as Sayyid and Al-Aqib came to the Apostle of God, may God's peace and blessings be upon him, and he intended to engage them in a mutual curse. One said to the other, "Do not engage in a mutual curse with him, for by God, if he is a prophet, and you curse him, neither we nor our descendants after us will prosper." They said to him, "We will give you what you have asked, so send with us a trustworthy man. And do not send with us anyone but a trustworthy man." He said, "I shall surely send with you a man who is truly trustworthy, the most trustworthy." His companions looked on with anticipation. He said, "Arise, O Abu Ubaidah ibn al-Jarrah." When he stood up, he said, "This is the trustworthy one of this nation." Al-Bukhari narrated this from the narration of Hudhayfa. Idris al-Audi said, from Samak ibn Harb, from Alqama ibn Wa'il, from Al-Mughira ibn Shubah, who said, "The Apostle of God, may God's peace and blessings be upon him, sent me to Najran. Among the things they said was, 'Tell us about what you recite, O sister of Aaron, when you know the time that passed between Jesus and Moses.' He said, 'So I came to the Prophet, may God's peace and blessings be upon him, and informed him. He said, Should you not have informed them that they used to name themselves after their prophets and the righteous people before them?' Muslim narrated this. Ibn Ishaq said, The Apostle of God, may God's peace and blessings be upon him, sent Khalid ibn al-Walid in the month of Rabi al-Akhir or Jumada al-Ula in the 10th year to the Banu al-Harith ibn Ka'b in Najran, and commanded him to call them to Islam for 3 days before fighting them. So Khalid went forth until he reached them, and he sent riders out in every direction, calling them to Islam and saying, O people, submit, and you will be safe. And the people submitted. Khalid remained, teaching them Islam, and he wrote to the Apostle of God, May God's peace and blessings be upon him, with the news. Then their delegation came with Khalid to the Apostle of God, may God's peace and blessings be upon him, and among their notables were Qays ibn al-Husayn Dhu al-Ghusa, Yazid ibn Abd al-Madan, and Yazid ibn al-Muhajjal. He said, The Prophet, may God's peace and blessings be upon him, appointed Qays as their leader. And the Prophet, may God's peace and blessings be upon him, had sent to them, after their delegation had departed, Amr ibn Hazm, to give them understanding of the religion, teach them the Sunnah, and take from them their charities. And on the 10th of Rabi al-Awwal, Ibrahim, the son of the Prophet, may God's peace and blessings be upon him, passed away at the age of 1.5 years. Al-Fadl ibn al-Abbas washed him. It is said that Al-Fadl and Usama ibn Zayd descended into his grave. He was fair-skinned and well-built, bearing a strong resemblance to his father, may God's peace and blessings be upon him. Thabit said, from Anas, that the Apostle of God, may God's peace and blessings be upon him, said, A boy was born to me tonight, and I have named him after my forefather, Abraham. This provides evidence for naming a child on the night of his birth. Then he entrusted him to Saif, the wife of a blacksmith in Al-Madinah named Abu Saif. Anas said, The Apostle of God, may God's peace and blessings be upon him, went to his son, and I went with him. He entered and called for the boy, and he held him close to him, and said what God willed for him to say. Anas said, I saw Ibrahim in the lap of the Apostle of God. May God's peace and blessings be upon him, as his soul was departing. The eyes of the Apostle of God, may God's peace and blessings be upon him, filled with tears. And he said, The eye weeps and the heart grieves, but we do not say except what pleases the Lord. By God, O Ibrahim, We are indeed grieved by your passing." Muslim narrated this, and Al-Bukhari narrated it as a suspended confirmed narration. Shubha said from Adi ibn Thabit from Al-Bara, who said, "When Ibrahim, the son of the Apostle of God, passed away, the Apostle of God, may God's peace and blessings be upon him, said, 'Verily he has a wet nurse who will complete his suckling in paradise.'" Al-Bukhari narrated this. Jafar ibn Muḥammad al-Sadiq said from his father that the Prophet, may God's peace and blessings be upon him, prayed over his son Ibrahim when he died. In that year, Abu Amir the monk, who was with Heraclius, the emperor of the Romans, died. In that year, Buran, the daughter of Kisra, the queen of the Persians, died, and they crowned her sister Azaman after her. This was stated by Abu Ubaidah. And in the last days of Dhu al-Qidah, Muḥammad ibn Abi Bakr al-Siddiq was born. His mother, Asma bint Umayz, gave birth to him at Dhu al-Hulayfa, while she was with the Prophet, may God's peace and blessings be upon him. Jabir ibn Abdullah said, "We went out with the Prophet, may God's peace and blessings be upon him, until we reached Dhu al-Hulayfa, and Asma bint Umayz gave birth to Muḥammad ibn Abi Bakr. I sent a message to him asking, 'What should I do?' He said, 'Perform a ritual bath, secure yourself with a cloth, and enter the state of Ihram.' And in that year, Muḥammad ibn Amr ibn Hazm was born in Najran, while his father was there. The farewell pilgrimage. Jafar ibn Muḥammad al-Sadiq said, from his father, from Jabir, who said, "The Apostle of God, may God's peace and blessings be upon him, proclaimed the pilgrimage among the people, and a great multitude gathered in Al-Madinah. The Apostle of God, may God's peace and blessings be upon him, set out with 5 days remaining of Dhu al-Qidah, or 4. When he was at Dhu al-Hulayfa, Asma bint Umayz gave birth to Muḥammad ibn Abi Bakr al-Siddiq. She sent a message to the Apostle of God, may God's peace and blessings be upon him, asking, 'What should I do?' He said, 'Perform a ritual bath and secure yourself with a cloth.' The Apostle of God, may God's peace and blessings be upon him, prayed in the mosque, then mounted Al-Kaswa. When she stood straight with him upon the plain of Al-Baida, I gazed as far as my eye could see. Before the Apostle of God, may God's peace and blessings be upon him, a multitude of riders and walkers, and to his right a multitude like it, and to his left a multitude like it, and behind him a multitude like it. Then the Apostle of God, may God's peace and blessings be upon him, raised his voice with the declaration of God's oneness, while the people raised their voices with their own declarations, and he did not reject any of it from them. But the Apostle of God, may God's peace and blessings be upon him, adhered to his own talbiyah. We intended nothing but the Hajj, for we did not know of the Umrah. We came with him to the house, and he touched the corner. Then he paced quickly for 3 circuits and walked for 4. Then he advanced to the station of Abraham and recited, "And take from the station of Abraham a place of prayer." 125, placing the station between himself and the house. Jafar said, "My father used to say, and I do not know him to have mentioned it, except from the Apostle of God, may God's peace and blessings be upon him, that in the 2 rakahs he would recite, 'Say he is God, the One,' and say, 'O you who disbelieve.' Then he returned to the house and touched the corner. Then he went out from the gate to Al-Safa. When he drew near Al-Safa, he recited, 'Verily, Al-Safa and Al-Marwa are among the symbols of God.' 158. I begin with what God began with. So he began with Al-Safa and ascended it. When he saw the house, he declared God's greatness and his oneness, and said, 'There is no God but God alone. He has no partner. To him belongs all dominion, and to him belongs all praise. He gives life and causes death, and he is over all things competent. There is no God but God alone. He fulfilled his promise, granted victory to his servant, and defeated the confederates alone. Then he supplicated between that, and said the like of it 3 times. Then he descended towards Al-Marwa. When his feet reached the bottom of the valley, he ran, and when he ascended, he walked until he reached Al-Marwa. He ascended it and did as he had done on Al-Safa. When he reached the final circuit on Al-Marwa, he said, "If I were to face again what I have left behind, I would not have brought the sacrificial animals, and I would have made it an umrah. So whoever among you does not have a sacrificial animal, let him release himself from ihram and make it an umrah." So all the people released themselves and shortened their hair, except the Prophet, may God's peace and blessings be upon him, and those who had sacrificial animals with them. Suraka ibn Malik ibn Jusham stood up and asked, "O Apostle of God, is this for this year of ours, or for all time?" He intertwined his fingers and said, "The Umrah has entered into the Hajj like this, twice. Nay, but for all time, for ever and ever." And Ali, may God be pleased with him, came from Yemen with sacrificial camels for the Prophet, may God's peace and blessings be upon him. He found that Fatima was among those who had released themselves from ihram, and she had worn dyed garments and applied kohl to her eyes. He disapproved of this with her. She said, "My father commanded me to do this." Ali used to say in Iraq, "So I went to the Apostle of God, may God's peace and blessings be upon him, to complain about what she had done, seeking a ruling from the Apostle of God, may God's peace and blessings be upon him." He said, "She has spoken the truth. She has spoken the truth. What did you say when you made your intention for the Hajj?" He said, "I said, O God, I intend as your apostle has intended." He said, "Then I have the sacrificial animals with me, so do not release yourself from ihram." He said, "The sacrificial animals he brought, and the sacrificial animals the Prophet, may God's peace and blessings be upon him, brought from Al-Madinah, numbered 100. Then the people released themselves and shortened their hair, except for the Apostle of God, may God's peace and blessings be upon him, and those who had sacrificial animals with them. When it was the day of Tarwiyah, they headed to Mina, having entered the state of ihram for the Hajj. The Apostle of God, may God's peace and blessings be upon him, rode and prayed at Mina the noon, afternoon, evening, night, and morning prayers. Then he remained for a little while until the sun had risen. He commanded that a tent of hair be pitched for him at Namira. The Apostle of God, may God's peace and blessings be upon him, proceeded, and Quraysh had no doubt that he would stop at the sacred monument, as Quraysh used to do in the time of ignorance. But the Apostle of God, may God's peace and blessings be upon him, went past it until he reached Arafah. He found the tent and dismounted there. When the sun had passed its zenith, he commanded that Al-Kaswa be saddled for him. He mounted and rode until he reached the middle of the valley. He delivered a sermon to the people, saying, "Verily, your blood and your property are sacred and inviolable amongst you, as is the sanctity of this day of yours, in this month of yours, in this land of yours. Behold, all the affairs of the time of ignorance are trampled under my feet, and the blood feuds of the time of ignorance are abolished. The first of our blood feuds that I abolish is the blood of Rabia ibn al-Harith, who was fostered in the tribe of Banu Sa'd, and whom Hudhail killed. And the usury of the time of ignorance is all abolished. So be conscious of God concerning women, for you have taken them in the trust of God, and you have made their intimacy lawful by the word of God. It is your right over them that they not allow anyone whom you dislike to tread upon your beds. If they do so, then strike them, but not severely. And it is their right over you that you provide for them and clothe them in a just manner. And I have left among you that which, if you hold fast to it, you shall never go astray, the book of God, the Most High. And you will be asked about me, so what will you say? They said, We bear witness that you have delivered the message, fulfilled the trust, and given sincere counsel. He then raised his forefinger towards the sky, and then pointed it towards the people, saying, O God, bear witness, 3 times. Then Bilal gave the call to prayer, then the Iqamah, and he prayed the noon prayer. Then he gave the Iqamah and prayed the afternoon prayer, and he did not pray anything between them. Then he rode until he reached the place of standing. He turned the belly of his she-camel towards the rocks, placed the path of the walkers before him, and faced the Qibla. He remained standing until the sun had set and the yellow glow had faded slightly, when the disk of the sun had disappeared. He had Usama ibn Zayd ride behind him, and he set off, pulling the reins of Al-Qaswa tight, so much so that her head would touch the pommel of his saddle. And he would say with his hand, O people, tranquility, tranquility. Whenever he came to a rope-like dune, he would loosen the reins for her a little until she ascended. He continued until he reached Al-Muzdalifah. There he prayed the evening and night prayers, with 1 call to prayer and 2 iqamas, and he did not pray anything between them. Then he lay down until the dawn broke. He prayed the dawn prayer when the morning had become clear to him, with a call to prayer and an iqamah. Then he mounted Al-Qaswa until he reached the sacred monument. He ascended it and praised God, declared his greatness and his oneness. He remained standing until it became very bright. Then he departed before the sun had risen, with Al-Fadl ibn Abbas riding behind him. He was a man with beautiful hair and a handsome face. When the Apostle of God, may God's peace and blessings be upon him, set off, litters carrying women passed by, running. Al-Fadl began to look at them. So the Apostle of God, may God's peace and blessings be upon him, placed his hand on Al-Fadl's face. Al-Fadl turned his face to the other side. So the Apostle of God, may God's peace and blessings be upon him, moved his hand to Al-Fadl's face. When he reached Muḥassir, he quickened his pace a little, then took the middle path that brings you out at the great Jamra. He came to the Jamra that is near the mosque and cast 7 pebbles, declaring God's greatness with each pebble, pebbles the size of a sling stone. He cast them from the middle of the valley. Then he went to the place of slaughter and sacrificed 63 camels, and he gave the rest to Ali. May God be pleased with him who sacrificed them, and he made him a partner in his sacrificial offering. Then he ordered that a piece be taken from each camel and placed in a pot and cooked. They both ate from its meat and drank from its broth. Then the Apostle of God, may God's peace and blessings be upon him, proceeded in a procession to the house. He prayed the noon prayer in Makkah. He came upon the Banu Abd al-Muttalib, who were drawing water from the well of Zamzam. He said, Draw water, O sons of Abd al-Muttalib, for were it not that the people would overwhelm you for your right of providing water, I would have drawn it with you. They handed him a bucket, and he drank from it. Muslim narrated this without the words, He gives life and causes death. Shuba said, from Qatada, from Abu Hassan al-Araj, from Ibn Abbas, that when the Apostle of God, may God's peace and blessings be upon him, reached Dhu al-Hulayfa, he marked a sacrificial camel on the right side of its hump, then wiped the blood from it and declared his intention for the Hajj. Muslim narrated this. Ayman ibn Nabil said, Qudama ibn Abdullah related to me, saying, I saw the Apostle of God, may God's peace and blessings be upon him, casting pebbles at the Jamrat al-Aqaba from upon a red she-camel in another narration, a sorrel one, with no striking, no chasing away, and no cries of, make way, make way. This is a good narration. Thor ibn Yazid said, from Rashid ibn Sa'd, from Abdullah ibn Luhay, from Abdullah ibn Qurt, who said, the Apostle of God, may God's peace and blessings be upon him, said, the most excellent of days in the sight of God is the day of sacrifice, then the day of resting, in which the people settle, which is the day that follows the day of sacrifice. 5 or 6 sacrificial camels were brought to the Apostle of God, may God's peace and blessings be upon him, and they began to press forward to him, vying for which one he would begin with. When their sides fell to the ground, the Apostle of God, may God's peace and blessings be upon him, said a quiet word which I did not understand. I asked the one next to me, what did he say? He said, whoever wishes may take a piece. This is a good narration. Hisham said from Ibn Sirin, from Anas, that the Apostle of God, may God's peace and blessings be upon him, cast the pebbles at the Jamra, then returned to his dwelling in Mina and slaughtered his sacrifice. Then he called for the barber, who took the right side of his head and shaved it. He began to distribute the hair, a single hair and 2 hairs at a time. Then he took the left side of his head and shaved it. Then he said, is Abu Talha here? And he gave it to Abu Talha. Muslim narrated this. Aban al-Attar said, Yahya related to us, saying, Abu Salama related to me that Muḥammad ibn Abdullah ibn Zayd related to him that his father witnessed the place of slaughter with the Apostle of God, may God's peace and blessings be upon him. He distributed sacrificial animals among his companions, but neither he nor his companion received one. He said, so the Apostle of God, may God's peace and blessings be upon him, shaved his head into his garment and gave it to him. He distributed some of it among the men and trimmed his nails and gave them to his companion. Verily it is with us now, dyed with henna and katam. Ali ibn al-Jad said, Al-Rabi ibn Subay related to us from Yazid al-Rakashi, from Anas, who said, the Apostle of God, may God's peace and blessings be upon him, performed the pilgrimage on a worn-out saddle and a blanket worth or not worth 4 dirhams. And he said, O God, a pilgrimage in which there is no showing off and no seeking of reputation. Yazid is a weak narrator. Abu Umayz said, from Qais ibn Muslim, from Tariq ibn Shihab, who said, a man from the Jews came to Umar, may God be pleased with him, and said, O Commander of the Faithful, there is a verse in your book that you recite. Had it been revealed to us, the congregation of the Jews, we would have taken that day as a festival. He asked, which verse? He said, this day I have perfected for you your religion, and completed my favour upon you, and have approved for you Islam as religion. 5.3. Umar said, verily I know the day on which it was revealed, and the place where it was revealed. It was revealed to the Apostle of God, may God's peace and blessings be upon him, at Arafat on a Friday. This is agreed upon. Hamad ibn Salama said from Ammar ibn Abi Ammar, who said, I was with Ibn Abbas, and with him was a Jew. He recited, this day I have perfected for you your religion, the verse. The Jew said, had this been revealed to us, we would have taken its day as a festival." Ibn Abbas said, "Indeed, it was revealed on a day of festival, a Friday, the day of Arafah." This is authentic according to the condition of Muslim. Ibn Jurayj said, from Abu al-Zubayr, who informed him that he heard Jabir say, "I saw the Prophet, may God's peace and blessings be upon him, casting pebbles at the Jamra from his mount on the day of sacrifice, saying, 'Take your rituals from me, for I do not know. Perhaps I will not perform pilgrimage after this pilgrimage of mine.'" Muslim narrated this. Ismail ibn Abi Uwais said, "My father related to me from Thawr ibn Zayd, from Ikrimah, from Ibn Abbas, that the Apostle of God, may God's peace and blessings be upon him, addressed the people during the farewell pilgrimage, and said, 'Verily, Satan has despaired of being worshipped in your land, but he is content to be obeyed in matters other than that, from those of your deeds which you deem insignificant, so beware of him. O people, I have left among you that which, if you hold fast to it, you will never go astray, the Book of God and the Sunnah of his Prophet. Verily, every Muslim is the brother of a Muslim. The Muslims are brothers. And it is not lawful for a man to take from the wealth of his brother except what he gives of his own free will. And do not wrong one another, and do not return after me to disbelief, striking the necks of one another." Yunus ibn Bukayr said, from Ibn Ishaq, Yahya ibn Abbad ibn Abdullah ibn Zubayr related to me from his father, who said, "It was Rabi'a ibn Umayyah ibn Khalaf al-Jumahi who would cry out on the day of Arafah from beneath the neck of the she-camel of the Apostle of God, may God's peace and blessings be upon him. He said to him, 'Cry out, O people,' for he had a loud voice. 'Do you know what month this is?' He cried out, and they said, 'Yes, the sacred month.' He said, 'Then God has made your blood and your property sacred to you until you meet your Lord, like the sanctity of this month of yours.' And he mentioned the narration. Al-Zuhri said, from the narration of Al-Awza'i, from him, from Abu Salama, from Abu Huraira, that when the Apostle of God, may God's peace and blessings be upon him, intended to depart from Mina, he said, 'We shall be encamping tomorrow, God willing, at Al-Muhasab, in the valley of the Banu Kinana, where they took an oath upon disbelief.' And that was because Quraysh had taken an oath against the Banu Hashim and the Banu al-Muttalib, that they would not intermarry with them, nor have dealings with them until they handed over the Apostle of God, may God's peace and blessings be upon him, to them. This is agreed upon. Aflah ibn Humayd said, from Al-Qasim, from Aisha, who said, 'We went out with the Apostle of God, may God's peace and blessings be upon him, during the nights of the Hajj.' She said, 'When we had departed from Mina, we encamped at Al-Muhasab,' and she mentioned the narration. This is agreed upon. Abu Ishaq as-Sabi said from Zayd ibn Arqam that the Apostle of God, may God's peace and blessings be upon him, fought in 19 battles, and he performed the farewell pilgrimage after he had emigrated, and he did not perform pilgrimage after that. Abu Ishaq said on his own authority, and one in Makkah. This is agreed upon. It is narrated from Ibn Abbas that he disliked it to be called the farewell pilgrimage, and he would say the pilgrimage of Islam. Zayd ibn al-Hubab said, Sufyan related to us from Jafar ibn Muḥammad, from his father, from Jabir, that the Prophet, may God's peace and blessings be upon him, performed 3 pilgrimages before he emigrated, and 1 pilgrimage after he emigrated, accompanied by an umrah. He brought with him 36 sacrificial camels, and Ali brought the remainder from Yemen, among them a camel that had belonged to Abu Jahl, with a silver ring in its nose, which the Apostle of God, may God's peace and blessings be upon him, sacrificed. Zayd is alone in narrating this. It has been said that he erred, and that it is narrated from Sufyan, from Abu Ishaq, from Mujahid, as a mursal report. Abu Bakr al-Bayhaqi said, "As for his statement, and one pilgrimage accompanied by an umrah, this is only said by Anas, may God be pleased with him, and those of the companions who held the view that the Apostle of God, may God's peace and blessings be upon him, performed a Qiran pilgrimage. As for those who held the view that he performed an Ifrad pilgrimage, this wording is hardly considered authentic by them, due to the variance in its chain of narration and other factors." Waqi said, from Sufyan, from Ibn Jurayj, from Mujahid, who said, "The Apostle of God, may God's peace and blessings be upon him, performed 3 pilgrimages. 2 pilgrimages while he was in Makkah before the Hijrah, and the farewell pilgrimage, and God knows best. And at the end of the year was the appearance of Al-Aswad al-Ansi, whose account will come later."